Joining us now with a legal perspective on Tamara Lich's bail hearing is criminal defense lawyer Mohamed El Rashidy. He's joining me now from Toronto. Mohamed, welcome to the rundown. I understand you think that Tamara Lich's bail hearing was a train wreck. Tell us why you think that and why she was denied bail.
I do. Thank you for having me, and congratulations on the show. It's a pleasure to be on here, especially on the very first episode. I did view it that way. It did. Reading the details that have been coming out, you do kind of cringe a little bit as someone who runs these types of hearings, just because of the way that it was conducted, at least what was presented before the judge. So as you may be aware, in a bail hearing, what we're dealing with is there's a presumption of innocence, and the right to a reasonable bail are fundamental principles in the Canadian justice system. So that's given a significant weight by the justice that's presiding. In this case, you had a judge, not a justice of the peace. You had somebody that's very experienced. And what the onus is on the Crown to try and show why this person should be held. And with the charges, while they are serious in terms of due to the protests that we've seen, but in the realm of the criminal code, mischief and related charges are not usually the kind of charges that you end up being denied bail for, especially if it's your first offense or if you're not violating another bail condition. So to see initially hear that it was denied is quite surprising. But then when you see the details, you understand why. The details being what transpired in court. Specifically things like the type of surety that you have. And in this case,
husband, right?
Exactly. In this case, she had her husband, which is not unusual to have a family member, but you usually want, so the surety is somebody that's going to assure the court that the conditions that the court implements or requires this individual to follow, in this case Tamara Lich, will actually be abided by. And the surety's duty is not only to make sure that these conditions are abided by, but if they're ever violated, that they contact the police right away. And so when you see the comments made by the surety, and number one, his involvement in the activity, that already raises real red flags. You want somebody with as much distance from whatever allegation the person is facing as possible. So in this case, you had somebody who is somewhat involved and doesn't seem to appreciate the seriousness of the matter. And then moreover, the details that were given about how they're going to move back and forth, how he attended court and how he came to Ontario, very, very mysterious type of comments when the court requires transparency, especially from a surety.
And Tamara Lich is scheduled to return to court on March 2nd, so in about a week. And Justice Bourgeois said Lich could face, as Sarah Galashan was mentioning, a lengthy stay if convicted. How long could we be talking?
She could face a number of years. Again, as a general rule with mischief, people don't get that long of a sentence. But given the special circumstances here, they're probably going to proceed by indictment. So she could be looking at something around 10 years. But what's important to note here is that when you're held over in regards to bail, she's not in a regular prison. She's being held in custody. That's very uncomfortable. That is not a place that's set up for people to be held long term. So it is especially onerous on an individual such in this case as Tamara Lich to be held further under these circumstances. It's important to remember that. These are not regular prison conditions. They are far worse.
Why is that?
Well, because it's set up for you to just go to court, have your bail hearing, and more than likely be released. It's a very crammed. It's not a comfortable quarter. It's not a place you want to be held in for more than a few hours. Well, at all, but for more than a few hours. It's just not set up for that. And during COVID, I can tell you, we currently are experiencing even more challenges in terms of separating people and keeping them apart. So it's even more crammed. It's even more uncomfortable than usual. So the conditions that she's held in are not comfortable by any means, even compared to a prison. And it's important to keep that in mind. The system isn't set up to hold people. And the fact that she was held, it shows the failure that took place in terms of presenting her argument before the court. And seeing the judge's reasoning, you can understand why. Some real question marks that could have easily been addressed, such as having a plan for what you're going to do when you're out. Your surety should assure the court and show them what plan they're going to follow in order to make sure they supervise you, that you're going to abide by these conditions. And that seemed to be glaringly absent in this case.
Mohamed, good of you to come on the show. Thank you for the bow tie as well. Mohamed El Rashidy is a criminal defense lawyer live in Toronto.